Hey everybody, I'm Andy.
And I'm Sean.
And this is the Commander's Brew.
This week, Temmet, Vizier of Naktamun.
Hey everybody, welcome back. It's episode 91 of the Commander's Brew. Our first Amonkhet based episode.
Oh, very exciting times. Very exciting times. As you know, here at the Commander's Brew, we brew decks. Every week we're going to bring you a new deck. It's going to be on budget, $50 or less for the deck. No card should be more than $5, but this is a very special one because whenever a new set rolls around, we get new legendaries, so we're always going to do one of them new legendaries.
Always, no matter what the cost. For these episodes, we say, imagine you went to your pre-release, you had a good time, and maybe you cracked one of the new commanders. Perhaps it was this one, Temmet, Vizier of Naktamun? Naktamun? Is it pronounced like Tutankhamun because that's who Temmet is like based on, or is it Naktamun, which also sounds like it's very, very well could be right.
I already want to make jokes about it. I think we should call it Temmet Vizier, not a common.
It's true. It's just factual, not a common. Not the common.
And also not uncommon.
Not uncommon. Oh my God, he's King Not Uncommon.
Yeah.
That's official. Well, here's
King
the thing.
Not Uncommon.
Okay. Since we're already starting in hard on Temmet. We're already giving him a few burns. But why? So he's supposed to be King Tut, who is the young ruler, right? So that's what they wanted to recreate for this Amonkhet. But he's not a ruler. He's a cleric, who's a vizier of one of the gods or whatever. So he's not a king. Like, why couldn't he have been the young king or prince or something?
I wonder. I mean, I haven't gone so deep on the flavor of it, but there's a lot of viziers. Maybe because there's gods like walking around. Maybe Vizier is the next best step. Like, there are no kings because there's gods and there's Nicol Bolas waiting to show up.
Yeah, right. No Nicol Bolas in this set though.
So weird.
No, it's
just his friggin' horns everywhere.
Just his friggin' horns popping up everywhere. But we like that. We got no problems with that. Our boy Nicol Bolas is coming up soon.
Cannot wait.
It's going to be like, we're going to change everything to look like that card. Like, we're just going to be, everything we have is going to look like that card. Here we are. Commander's Brew, $50 or less, like you said. This one we're stoked about. It's Amonkhet. It's the new set's out. We're going to be doing we're going to be recording a set review right after this. And it'll be up like pretty much right away, right after this one. So if you want to get our thoughts on all the latest commander cards for EDH, you can listen to that. It's a pretty comprehensive list. We'll let you know what we think about all of that stuff. Also, of course, we have a Patreon that we want to tell you about before we get into the meat and gravy of this episode. Patreon.com/commandersbrew. Go there if you want to help us out, support the show directly by donating as little as $1 an episode. It's up to you. You can set limits on how much is given a month and all that kind of stuff. It's really great.
Flexible.
Very flexible. And a lot of podcasts, specifically even a lot of Magic podcasts, are leaning on Patreon these days and support from their listeners, and it's really been working out. And on that note, if you've downloaded our buds Jimmy and Josh's Lifelinker app, which is a Magic like life keeping thing for your phone, that's how you can get our background. You can get the Commander's Brew background by donating to our Patreon, even just once. So you can just give us $1 and then you have it forever. You'll get a secret code. That'll be fun. Right?
Secret codes are the best.
Yeah, secret codes are great. And it's like, I can't believe it. Like, we're actually relying on the secrecy of the code because otherwise, like, you could just post it on the internet, but like, we're just like, hey guys, please don't do that.
Yeah.
And everyone's doing it. It's great.
Honorable listeners.
Exactly. So that's awesome. But before we get much deeper, we got to talk about our sponsor.
The Wizard's Tower. Yeah, here we go. Welcome to the plane of Amonkhet. Vast,
deserts. Mummies walking around everywhere. Pyramids, gods, wonderful times. We also have a magic card store, the Wizard's Tower, wizardtower.com. Would you like to buy some magic singles? I'll direct you to the Wizard's Tower. Okay, see those giant horns in the background? Okay, head towards the giant horns. Make a right. Keep going towards the other horns. Then make a left at them. Past 2 horns. If you get to the big black horns, then you know you've gone too far. So turn right there, it should be. And then look for the horns. Head towards those other horns. That's the Wizard's Tower, where you'll get free shipping on singles, $15 or more to Canada, $10 or more to the US. Use coupon code Tower of Brews. Get an extra 5% off that order of $15 or more. And you'll get 3% kickback towards your next order. These are but some of the glories that await you on Amonkhet.
Okay, there you have it. Yeah, just the we're all fresh. We're all new here for Amonkhet. Everyone's we don't know what it's like. It's nice to have a person showing us around, even if every major landmark is just horns.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. All those full art lands with the horns on them. Do you think there's a lot of horns everywhere, or there's just one giant set that you can see from everywhere, and it's just the same perspective?
That is a good question. Well,
wait, no, but if it was, though, you would see them overlap each other. Like, you'd see them from different angles. We're always looking straight on, which is impossible from all the areas.
Unless they rotate. Unless they're on a giant lazy Susan.
You know what's really cool? Someone pointed out on, I think, Reddit, all of the images for Amonkhet, which is the horns with the sun in the background. Mm-hmm. As the story elements are going forward, the new chapters, the sun is moving closer to the horns. So presumably the sun will become that egg between the horns that Nicol Bolas has, and then he's going to wake up and like do some stuff.
Oh, wicked.
One can only assume.
One can only assume.
Yeah.
Now, so, okay, well, I mean, I don't want to get too much into the Vorthos. Maybe we'll do that on our Amonkhet set review, but like, where is Nicol Bolas right now? He's not on Amonkhet, right? Like, last we left him, he was fighting with a Johnny on a Lara or something, right?
Is that why a Johnny didn't come to Amonkhet? Because he doesn't want to reawaken that beef?
Yeah, he doesn't want. He doesn't want to spark up a new beef.
Yeah, right.
He's staying out of that's Nicol Bolas's club. He doesn't like to go in there. He knows he's going to be there. Look, man,
oh, Johnny, well, welcome part of the Gatewatch. It's nice to have you. We're going to Amonkhet. You want to join us? I don't know, guys. I don't get along with the guy who's already there.
Yeah, I can't really get into that. That guy is him and I don't get along. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. I want to have a good time. I'm gonna stay here.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, let's. What do you say we start? We start into our first section here, which is
so our first section is we roast cards. So who are we roasting this week, Andy?
This week it's a rather disappointing rare from Dragons of Tarkir. It's Living Lore, 3 and a blue for a creature. It's an avatar. It has star power, so that's kind of exciting. As Living Lore enters the battlefield, exile an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. Okay. Living Lore's power and toughness are each equal to the exiled card's converted mana cost. Okay, I mean, I guess it's kind of tough to get large power and toughness out of a blue creature for a low cost. That doesn't really happen. Like, that's more green's thing, I suppose. Possibly red. So there you go. But also, whenever Living Lore deals combat damage, it doesn't have to be to a person, I just noticed. It can be to a creature.
It could be to a planeswalker.
Or
to a creature, too.
Yeah, because it's just combat damage. Okay. You may sacrifice it. If you do, you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. So you exile hopefully something big and flashy, make a giant living lore, and then you have to kill it in order to cast it again, and it has to deal combat damage first.
Yeah.
So, like, there's a lot of hoops to jump through to give something flashback, it seems like.
I also feel like, yeah, like you're going to want to cheat out a spell like into your graveyard so you can cast it way earlier than you'd want to. But like it goes opposite of what, like maybe I want an 8/8 and I want to cast, but like what I got that spell kicking around too. Like it's such a divided focus.
And if you kill this, and obviously if this thing dies, that spell is exiled forever and you didn't get anything. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Maybe it's best used as defensively. Like you cast a giant you exile a giant spell and just use it as defense so no one will attack you. Because if they do, you get to cast that spell.
Yeah. Also, what is this thing? Look at it.
Oh man. Yeah, sure. I got a few roasts on what it is.
On what it is, yeah.
Yeah, I think what it is like a scroll like with the spells written on it walking around. But like also it has like a weird basket in its stomach. And legs, I guess.
Yeah. 3 legs. Okay. Hey, Living
All
Lore.
right, Living Lore.
Hey, Living Lore. You're the Mr. Bean car version of avatars.
Oh, we're in it, huh?
Go.
Okay. Let me pull up my notes here. Hey, Living Lore. I'm so grateful to have you around when I need a wicker chair to sit in.
Hey, Living Lore. Go back to Pottery Barn.
Hey, Living Lore. At least I want to have you around in case I run out of toilet paper.
That's good.
And that doesn't mean I don't mean the card itself is a piece of toilet paper. I mean the guy.
The actual thing is, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Living Lore, how many tea bags did it take to stain your parchment that color brown?
Yeah.
It's like a little kid trying to make it look
project.
old. Yeah.
Hey, Living Lore. I accidentally dropped you in the compost bin, but I couldn't find you from all the potato peels.
Hey, Living Lore, you look like one giant Frito.
Yeah. Hey, Living Lore, more like living bore.
Living snore.
Living chore.
Oh man, that's a good rapid fire segment.
Yeah, right? Living Lore, you roasted.
You burnt. All right, huge burns on Living Lore.
Oh man.
Peace, Living Lore. Get out of here forever.
Great. So if you thought of other roasts you want to throw at Living Lore, please tweet at us at Commander's Brew. If you got ideas for other cards that badly need roasting, throw our suggestions at Commander's Brew.
I can't help but notice that no one has taken us up on that yet.
We got a couple.
Did we?
Someone put forth a super old card like fish liver oil.
Oh yeah, really? Oh okay. I know
somewhere.
that card. It gives like something Island Walk and has like a babe fish lady on it, like holding some kind of oil,
holding a jar,
or something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's cool. Yeah, but has anyone taken part in the burns themselves?
Yeah,
really?
couple burns on there.
The way Twitter works is when you share a Twitter account, like we do for the Commander's Brew one.
Right.
Like if one person sees it first, it doesn't show up as new in the other person's phone. So sometimes Sean and I will miss tweets that the other person has seen first, right?
Yes. Do you know what you should do?
What's that?
Hashtag it. I mean, the listeners. If you're gonna send us a burn.
Oh yes.
Hashtag it.
Yeah.
Hashtag it card burns.
EDH burns?
EDH burns.
Yeah, let's do EDH burns because we're burning it based on Commander, so that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, yeah, so if you send us any sick burns, that way we won't miss them.
Exactly, so we can check the hashtag EDH burns. Yeah. Maybe should it be EDH roast? That makes more sense.
Oh yeah, that should be.
We do call it the roast. We don't call it
EDH roast.
Okay, EDH roast. Official last word said on it is EDH roast is the hashtag. All right. Okay, but let's get into the episode here. Let's get to what we're talking about, and that is our boy Temmet, Vizier of Naktamun.
Yep.
I love
Who
it.
knows?
Okay, let's read Temmet, Vizier of Naktamun for the listeners. It's
Okay.
Yeah, it's white and a blue, so one white and one blue. For a 2/2, he's a legendary, obviously, human cleric. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature token you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn and can't be blocked this turn. Then he has the new mechanic Embalm, which costs 3 and a white and a blue. And what Embalm means is exile this card from your graveyard and create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a white zombie human cleric with no mana cost, and you can embalm only as a sorcery. So some interesting new things there. The token is not just a straight copy. It becomes white only. It becomes a zombie in addition to its other creature types, it looks like, for the most part. And no mana cost, which is relevant for some things, right?
Yeah, CMC of 0.
Yeah, exactly.
Like most tokens.
Like most regular tokens, but when you make a copy of a creature, like if you make a token copy of a creature, it will retain that creature's mana cost, right?
Yes, it would.
If it was a card, because tokens are
like if you copy a card, but Embalm is something different.
Yes, exactly. So
this is cool on a commander,
Yeah.
because you kind of get like the first time you cast him, he costs 2, and then if he dies, you would send him to your command zone. But in this case, I think you get that one free Embalm. You just cast him out of the graveyard. You embalm him for 5.
Mm-hmm.
Then when he dies, you send him back. Well, because at that point, the actual card will be exiled. So the card is sitting in the command zone, and you have a token, the embalmed token on the battlefield, doing your business. And then when that one dies, you can cast him again for only 4, and then 5, and then 6, and then 5, and then 8, and then 5.
So you get this little reprieve in between where if you want your commander out, you can pay what eventually becomes less, obviously, right? So
yeah,
and you make him a token.
Good deal.
So what did you think when you saw this guy first? As far as strategy, EDH goes.
Yeah, my first thoughts is like it makes tokens bigger and unblockable.
Yeah.
So, but only one of them. So
Yes.
I would think we would want to get the biggest, baddest token possible, or a token that did something awesome when it did combat damage.
Yeah, that is a good thing to think about. I was also thinking, let's make this the deck where we get a lot of creature tokens, like actual copies of cards.
Yeah.
And in addition to like getting them through, I was just thinking, let's get the biggest, baddest, meanest tokens we can make. And,
yeah, same thought.
You know
same
what I mean?
thing, same
exactly.
angle. Yeah.
Right. So whether you want them to hit or whether you just want them to be huge and bad, this is what we did, right? We're going to be making lots of copies of actual cards, actual creature cards. Not really leaning towards just vanilla token creatures, although 1 or 2 do pop up. And yeah, you can even you make them unblockable and slightly larger and get in for a little bit of damage. So let's talk about what important categories we have here for this commander, for Temmet. Number 1, of course, is those tokens. How are we going to make those tokens?
Yeah, we got to make
these
some tokens,
right?
So we're interested in making, as we said, we don't just want to make soldier tokens or like bird tokens. We want to make tokens of actual cool cards, and then give those unblockability. So how about Cackling Counterpart? 1 blue, instant. Create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, and then flashback for 5 blue. So for 3 mana, we can make a copy of anything, including things we've already copied if we want.
Yeah, exactly. That's the beauty of it. Some things will only be able to, like this, create a token of something you control, but there are various other ways, as we'll see, to get some token copies of your opponent's creatures and stuff. So then that's when these guys really turn on and really go nuts. Cackling Counterpart having flashback is very important. If anyone was watching me on stream when I was drafting Modern Masters 3 there, you'll know that I lost a game because I forgot Cackling Counterpart had flashback. I conceded a game that I was like, oh, well, I'm just dead here now. Next turn, I didn't get my draw. Like, I drew a land. I was like, oh, well. And then everyone's like, no! You have flashback. So, yeah, that's very good. You get 2 uses out of that. And this is very similar to Faded Infatuation, which is basically the same card, except it just costs 3 blue, and at the end you can after it you can scry 2. But same thing, you put a token of something you control out.
Great.
There's another. This is a really neat one here. Mirror Mockery, 1 and a blue. It's an aura, and you enchant it on a creature, and it says whenever enchanted creature attacks, you may put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that creature. Exile that token at the end of combat. This is, I think in Commander you're going to be putting this on your own creature more often than not.
Yeah.
And in this case, if we put it on a token that Temmet can make unblockable, then we can get another one of those tokens. And then if we have some way
would
to
not be unblockable.
What?
Right? Like that's the thing. Like we need the first one to be unblockable.
Yes, that's what I mean.
To get through. Yeah. Because the token copy that we make, although as a token, it's past the Temmet's trigger by the time we make it. So
but it's also not attacking. It just appears.
Oh, that's true too. I keep thinking, yeah.
So for Mirror Mockery, like the real use of this, I think, in like a lot of other formats, is to put it on your opponent's creature, and then it blanks that creature because it, a one of that appears every time. But if you pop this on something with a cool enter the battlefield ability, or even if you have a way to say populate, which we'll get to, you can basically keep that token once it appears. So Mirror Mockery is really. It's a useful card in this deck. I think it's really fun.
Very cool. Yeah. It's a great way to make token copies of creatures. Is making 5 token copies of those creatures.
Oh yeah.
How about Rite of Replication? 2 blue to make a token copy of target creature. You don't have to control it. This one. Rite of Replication hits anything on the battlefield. But also, if you kick it for 5 more, so you pay a total of 9, which is that happens a lot in Commander. You can make 5 copies of a token creature. Again, at that point, we don't mind that Temmet can only make one of them unblockable. We're just into just like, oh, you got a cool ETB ability? I'll take 5, please.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, if you're playing EDH, you probably know about Rite of Replication. It straight up wins games.
Yeah, there are some creatures you can copy 5 times that basically give you a win.
Exactly. The ally that mills comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
If you have that guy out, you get enough that you can mill all of your opponents for a win.
Sure. Vila the Nightclad does massive damage when you copy her that many times.
Yeah, so this is a
very
powerful
of Asphodel.
Yeah, great merchant. Oh man, it's any of those exponential math creatures, right? Those are the ones that mess you up. I had a card that I meant to put on here, and now I can't find it. Okay. Whatever. I'll look when it's your turn next. But anyways, let's move on to the next one here. Fairy Artisans. I had this card. Oh, I had this card out recently in a game.
Ooh.
And it did work. It's awesome. This card is great. So it's 3 and a blue. It's the flying 2/2. It's from the latest Commander set. And it's Fairy Artificer, and it says, whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. Then exile all other tokens created with Fairy Artisans.
Pretty good.
It's very good. You just get the latest creature that your opponents have put out, right? But you'll get all the enter the battlefield abilities that happen, any death triggers or anything like that.
They exile.
I'm thinking because I was sacrificing them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I was sacrificing them before they got exiled, so I was getting all these extra triggers. But yeah, you get any leave the battlefield triggers if that's relevant. And again, like I said, any kind of thing that populates is going to populate a copy of that token, and you don't have to get rid of that one. That one sticks around. So it's really fun to have a token out there. And then someone drops their, like this happened in the game, someone drops their Avacyn. And I was like, okay, this is an Avacyn now. And it was an Avacyn until the next player's turn, because they played another creature, and then that one was exiled, and then a new one comes in. It's so good. People were scrambling to try and get rid of this card.
Ooh, love it. Love it.
Great. And yeah, of course, if you can make copies of this, you're pretty happy, because then you get 2 of each creature that comes in. Things just go absolutely bonkers when you get Fairy Artisans out. It's a fantastic card. It's perfectly like not it's a perfect 75% card, as our friend Jason Alt would say. This is only as powerful as the cards in your opponent's decks, so it never seems unfair, and it never seems like it's broken or you're cheating or anything, because you're not. It's just, hey man, just don't play that, don't play that Avenger of Zendikar when I got my Fairy Artisans out, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, love this card. Can't say enough good things about it. It's great.
Okay, let's talk about a white creature that makes its own tokens. This is Herald of the Host, 3 white, flying vigilance 4/4. This is one of the first times, and the only time I guess we saw the myriad effect. So when Herald of the Host attacks any opponent, you get to make a token copy for each other opponent attacking those opponents. So one person's being attacked by the real one, and the other ones are being attacked by other ones, like token copies of them.
That's right. Myriad is a really good ability in this deck. Not only just because of the fact that it adds other attackers and things like that, but and that it makes tokens, but this is kind of like one of those exponential effects, right? These creatures, the Myriad creatures, there's a blue one too that when it hits you draw a card, which is great. And this one has Flying and Vigilance, Vigilance is a great ability in Commander. But if you copy this creature with your Cackling Counterpart or Fated Infatuation or whatever, and then you're swinging with these guys, like, that's double the amount of other tokens that are popping out. You can populate those tokens. You can do that, right? I keep saying populate. That's kind of a best case scenario. There's only a couple of populate sources in this deck because we don't get green. We don't get access to green. We just had the white cards. But they're very good. And but there's other ways to make more of these guys too, right? And have them stick around. So Myriad, spoiler alert, is very good. Okay, I found the card I wanted to mention.
Okay.
Here we go. Put it into the thing. It is Mirror Match. Mirror Match is an instant for 6 mana. It's 4 and 2 blue. It says cast Mirror Match only during the declare blockers step. Okay. For each creature attacking you or a planeswalker you control, put a token that's a copy of that creature onto the battlefield blocking that creature. Exile those tokens at end of combat. So it's very similar to Mere Mockery, except we get every creature that's attacking us. So all those ETB triggers, everything that happens, if you can keep those tokens around somehow, obviously that's added bonus. We're pretty pleased with that. So Mirror Match is like just a little add-on to Mere Mockery that I wanted to mention. It's like a bigger, better version of it.
Cool. Let's keep moving.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Speaking of Populate, we are going to run a couple of white Populate cards. One of them, Wake the Reflections. Very simple. Sorcery, white, Populate. That's it. But that is going to be a massive ability when we are able to copy, an opponent drops a big bad, like an Avenger of Zendikar or something like that, and then we have a token of it now. For 1 white, do I want a second Avenger of Zendikar? Yes, I do, please. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think Wake the Reflections is generally quite a bad card.
In general, a bad card. Like this deck can run it.
This is the deck that makes Wake the Reflections completely shine. I have a Tristani tokens deck that is just big tokens. It's not 1/1s. It's not soldiers. It's 3/3, 4/4, 5/5, and bigger. And I don't run Wake the Reflections. It's not worth a card to have one of those tokens.
Because you're really at that point just being like, do you just want more power and toughness and another body? Like, that is valuable, but we're talking about tokens that do more stuff.
Exactly. We're talking about this is a 1 mana populate your best token creature, which is often the best creature on the battlefield, right?
Yeah.
So Wake the Reflections, the ceiling is much higher in this deck.
And the floor, as we know.
As we always know. If you found Wake the Reflections lying on the street in a puddle and you picked it up and you'd never heard of or played Magic before, that is the absolute floor of this card. So hopefully that's not going to happen to you.
The absolute floor of this card is you find it and you don't know what Magic is, but you're like, I need a new hairstyle. Maybe I'll copy this girl's hair.
Hey, I like her outfit. This is pretty nice. That's the absolute floor. But yeah, this card is kept out of Commander decks for a reason. It's not good, but we found the deck, I think, that makes it fully worth it. Like this deck wants as many sources of Populate as it can have, and I think quite literally there are only about 3 3 or 4, four maybe sources of Populate for this deck. 4 white cards, 4 white only cards that have Populate on them. Great. Okay, so since we don't have a lot of Populate, you do want to make this save this one for a good one. So then why not get a couple creatures, or a creature that has Populate right on them? Oh wait, I missed this up.
That's fine.
It's Mirror Sigil Sergeant. There it is. He is a 5 and a white for a 4/4 that has trample. He's a Rhino soldier. And he says, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control a blue permanent, you may put a token into play that's a copy of Mirror Sigil Sergeant. So these guys, that is, am I right about that? Is that exponential growth?
I think so, because
because they double.
The copy would have everything on the card.
Yeah, so you have 1, it becomes 2, then you have 2, and that becomes 4, and then you have 4, and that becomes 8. That's exponential growth.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes certain clone cards add the text, but it retains this ability, and that's because those cards expect to copy other cards that don't have that ability, and they need to keep it. But this already has it, so as it's copied, it's going to copy itself again and again. It is exponential growth, you're right.
Yeah, and that this is the guy that you don't really need to populate. He populates himself. They need to get rid of this, or all your creatures, obviously, as soon as possible, because Mirror Sigil Sergeant, although just a 4/4 trample isn't that impressive in Commander, but once you see 16, 32, 64 of them, you're starting to, you're going to have to do something about it, right?
Yeah. 1/4, not so bad.
Yeah.
128 of them, that's something.
This is where a card like Sever the Bloodline becomes very good.
Yes.
Or what's the exile one?
Detention Sphere.
Oh yeah, that's one. I was thinking the recent one.
Maelstrom Pulse.
That's also good. No, it's a white exile one that you investigate for the non-token ones.
Oh, Declaration in Stone.
That's it. That's the one. So those cards obviously are very good against Mirror Sigil Sergeant, but I mean, this guy's great. This is the deck for him for sure.
Oof. Okay. Let's talk about Andy's favorite mechanic, the tempting mechanic.
Oh, man.
Tempt with reflections. We've never dealt with the blue tempting card yet on this podcast.
So. Oddly enough, it's the one I've seen cast the most in real life.
Yeah, it's good. 3 and a blue, sorcery, tempting offer. Choose target creature you control, put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that creature. Each opponent may put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that creature. For each opponent who does, put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that creature. So you get, like if you pick your something good, let's say you picked your Mirror Sigil Sergeant because you're like, I want extras, and everyone else can have their own. But when they do, you'll be way ahead of them. Your exponential growth is way more than their exponential growth.
Yeah, exactly. This is the one that I think this one is. I mean, everyone will argue with you and say the green one's the best one. I kind of think that it probably is. They're probably right about that. But this is the one where I think you get the most if everyone says no to it, right? If everyone says no to this, you still paid 4 to get a copy of your best creature, which can be very much worth it, especially in this deck. And obviously, if you've got a lot of very good creatures to copy. So this
I don't feel ripped off if no one copies it.
Exactly. And you might feel that way if you paid 4 and like got a land. I don't know. It depends on what your lands are, obviously, but yeah, Tempt with Reflections, this is a good one. It's for sure worth running. And again, always say no to the tempting offer. Never take it. It's not worth it. But of course, there's always someone who takes it.
Yeah, right.
No matter what. Yeah. So, and finally in this category of token makers, because there's so many different ways to make tokens with this deck, and it really is a lot of fun because you kind of have to work within these kind of restrictions that you have and make the tokens different ways. There are even more that we'll get to later. But this is one that is basically, I noticed, is basically the Embalm mechanic before Embalm existed.
Oh, yeah.
This card is called Back from the Brink. From the second I saw this card, I remember drafting it I think we did I think we might have done a grab bag draft or something, and I got this card. But Back from the Brink, it's a 6-mana enchantment. It's 4 and 2 blue, and it says exile a creature from your graveyard and pay its mana cost. put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that creature, and you can activate it only as a sorcery. So that's similar,
Embalm,
right? It basically gives all your creatures in your graveyard Embalm, right? Like you exile them, you get a copy that's a token that's a copy of it. Obviously, this one retains the CMC. It doesn't become a white zombie, but yeah, this is neat.
So if this is on the battlefield, you can let Temmet die, go to the graveyard, and then bring him back up for 1 white, 1 blue instead of his normal Embalm cost.
Exactly. So Back from the Brink works really well with your commander there.
I guess he won't be a zombie that way.
True. I mean,
who cares?
We're not relying on that anyways.
No, that don't matter to us.
This isn't a blue-white zombie deck. Although now you can make that.
Yeah, man, that's on the horizon.
That is yeah, they're really branched, like the branching zombies out, I guess. Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, Back from the Brink. It's not the greatest in that because you do need to pay for it again, and once you do, the creature's gone forever, kind of. But I think it's still very good and very usable in this deck. There's a lot of times when you can just basically like Back from the Brink something and then make copies of it and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really good.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. And this is another card where like I've kind of been looking to put this in an EDH deck and have never found it, and then this is the one. Here we go.
Nice.
We got it. Okay, so
let's talk about some creatures that we're going to want to copy, right? So far we've talked about ways to get token copies of big bad cards. Let's talk about some of those big bad cards. I would love extra copies of Mere Battlesphere. It's a 7 generic mana for a 4/7 artifact Mere construct creature. When Mere Battlesphere enters the battlefield, create 4 1/1 colorless Mere artifact creature tokens. Great. So that's 5 creatures altogether. Whenever Mere Battlesphere attacks, you may tap X untapped Mere you control. If you do, Mere Battlesphere gets +X/+0 until end of turn and deals X damage to defending player. Now, think about this. So I've got my original Mere Battlesphere. So that's 5 Mere, including the sphere itself. I copy it. The copy brings 4 more for a total of 10 Mere. I make the token copy of Mere Battlesphere unblockable. I attack with it.
Yeah.
And tap the 9 other Mere that I have. So I do 9 damage to a player, and he gets +9/+0 and is unblockable. Not to mention Temmet's +1/+1 he already gives him. This card is a monster in this deck.
That's 22 damage.
22 damage
by making one other Mere Battlesphere.
One other. If you have another copy of the Mere, let's say you do that tempting offer and people give you a couple Mere Battlespheres. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh man.
You're tapping 14 Mere just for straight damage, and then you're adding 14 damage. That's almost a one-hit 40 damage kill.
I can see that happening too. I can see people going like, "You got a Mere Battlesphere? Yeah, okay, I'll take a Mere Battlesphere because it makes me 5 creatures, like so I can block your Mere Battlesphere. Like I'm not that worried about it. Yeah, I might take 4 or 5 damage just from its ability there, but like, that's okay. I'd like to have a Mere Battlesphere." And then someone else goes, "Well, I'm not going to be the only person left out of this. I need a Mere Battlesphere."
Yeah.
So then you get 3 Mere Battlesphere, like in that, and then someone else is like, "No, guys, we can't." So I'm going to say no. You still get 3 in total out of that tempt. And
let me tell you,
things get nuts. Then you get your Temmet out from the command zone, because that's how you really want to use Temmet here. We haven't really talked about the strategy of this deck, but I think that's what you want to do. You want to get your big creatures. You want to make a few copies of them. You want to set up a nice attack, and then you cast Temmet, and then on that combat, his ability will trigger. And
yeah, because Temmet only costs 2.
Exactly.
So you can surprise the board. I mean, they know he's going to come out, but you don't need to save a lot of resources to pull it all off in one turn.
Exactly, yeah. And Mere Battlesphere is one of the best. We keep this is in a lot of decks. It's kind of a default 7-drop for Commander, and it's like because it's so good.
It's so cheap too. It's so cheap.
This is a card I almost forgot about. Last night was doing the final pass on this deck, and was like, how did we not think to include this card? It's Cloudblazer. 3 white blue. This one is from Kaladesh. It's a 2/2 flyer, and it says when Cloudblazer enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life and draw 2 cards. This is part of the this is to kind of illustrate the enter the battlefield capabilities of a deck like this, right? So you make big copies of creatures, and then you swing for 22 damage or whatever. Or in the meantime, trying to get set up for that, you can make copies of things like Cloudblazer, Muldrifter, draw cards. This is going to be a big way to draw cards. Obviously, Cloudblazer gains you a bit of life as well, and you're happy to see 3 or 4 copies of Cloudblazer, that's for sure.
No problemo.
No problemo. Put this under a Mimic Vat and you're laughing.
Cool. You know who's fun to copy? It That Betrays.
Oh, man. Yeah, for sure.
Expensive to start. Tough go to get this guy out to begin with.
For sure.
12 generic mana for an 11/11 Eldrazi. But let me tell you, Annihilator 2, which we love. So every copy of this is just more Annihilator, which we love. But also, whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent, put that card onto the battlefield under your control. Yikes.
Yeah, I was basically just trying to think of the biggest thing that was kind of on budget. And this is what I came up with.
Yeah. Amazing.
What were you going to say there?
I was just going to say, like, just keep in mind that, like, its ability doesn't double. Like, you can't get two, like, if they sacrifice it, you get it. You don't get it twice.
Exactly.
But that Annihilator adds up.
And this is the thing with It That Betrays, right? So this is one of those cards that's kind of a lightning rod for removal because no one wants Annihilator and no one wants to give you the stuff they lose with Annihilator. That's doubly bad, right? So
even if there was an enchantment that just had its other ability, like whenever an opponent sacrifices something, you get it. Forget Annihilator, forget the creature, couldn't attack or block. That would still be something that some decks would need to get off the battlefield ASAP.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't have that.
You can't crack an Evolving Wilds.
No, you give them that. You give them that Evolving Wild. So, yeah, right? Like, It That Betrays is... this is the very top end of this deck, obviously. 12 mana is not easy to get to for a blue-white deck. Hopefully you draw your ramp here or the game goes long. But there are ways, right? Like, if this gets in the... if someone mills this, you're pretty okay with that. There's a couple of ways to get things out of the graveyard here. So, It That Betrays is... the high end, but certainly it is also very high end. What do we have next here? Oh, yeah. Okay, so another big bad monster. It's Stormtide Leviathan, 5 and 3 blue. We haven't talked about this guy in a long time. He's an 8/8 Leviathan with Island Walk, and all lands are islands in addition to their other types, which is cool. And then creatures without flying or Island Walk can't attack. Yeah, this is one of the first big creatures I ever saw in Magic and was like, this... How does anyone ever beat this?
This is the definition of a finisher.
Yes, absolutely. A fish finisher.
Fish finisher. So he already is unblockable because Island Walk, everything's an island and he has Island Walk.
Mm-hmm.
But Temmet's going to give him a +1/+1. But copying this thing, since the deck is all about copying creatures, this is a great one to copy. It's not legendary, so I'll have 2 or 3 of them just finishing players off one by one.
Yep, absolutely. And they all just get unblockable because of the Island Walk, like you mentioned, and they stop people from attacking you for the most part. Obviously, a few flyers can still get through, but yeah, Stormtide Leviathan, total finisher. And we can't. It seems as though we can't build a deck these days without talking about this next one.
Yeah. Emiria Shepherd, 5 white. We all know this. Angel, flying, 4/4. Landfall. When a land enters the battlefield, put something from your graveyard back into your hand. Unless that land was a plains, then put it straight to the battlefield.
Yeah.
Having copies of Emiria Shepherd means playing a plains is bonkers.
Yeah. Listen, if you get Emiria Shepherd and you make a copy of her or something, don't use Back from the Brink.
No.
Just play your plains or your island, whatever, and then just let's get our recursion engine going, right? So,
oh boy.
So yeah, Emiria Shepherd, just a biggest, craziest creature. This is one you want to make copies of for sure. Not to mention, 4/4 flyers is going to get through for some damage on a lot of your opponents.
I want to put you on the spot here.
Okay.
I cast Tempting Reflections on my Emiria Shepherd.
Oh man.
Do you take a copy of it?
It does. I could be tempted because
you're not playing white.
Oh, I'm not playing white. Am I playing black? Am I playing graveyard? Maybe.
Yeah. You got some graveyard.
If I got removal, maybe I say yes, but I got to take my own advice here. I gotta say no. I gotta say no. It is tempting though, right? It's so tempting.
It's so tempting.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Amen. When the chips are down, I dare anyone not to take an extra copy of Emiria Shepherd if offered.
Oh, I gotta say no, because then you'll get more, and it's like you get 3 times the Emiria Shepherd if someone else does too.
1 planes, everything from your graveyard back to the battlefield. I love it.
It's not as good for me because I don't have planes. So no, I gotta say no. Don't be tempted. Don't be tempted. Okay, so speaking of recursion and Emiria Shepherd, like I as I mentioned, there are some other ways to help us out with that, and one of them is Mnemonic Wall. 4 and a blue for an 0/4 defender that when it enters the battlefield, you may return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. There are quite a few token making things that are instants or sorceries. We already talked about Tempt with Reflections. We talked about Wake the Reflections. Cackling Counterpart and Faded Infatuation. So these are all ways to make our tokens that we need, and Mnemonic Wall essentially means that you get to do that again. So these types of cards have become very valuable in our deck.
Yeah, or even just our Populate cards too. Like Mnemonic Wall is great for getting those back.
Yeah, and you can get a fun little wheel going there where you Mnemonic Wall and you're like you can
copy Mnemonic Wall
to get the thing back. But I mean, like, where are you getting there? You're making a bunch of 0/4s? Like, okay, sure. Like, it's not nothing, but that's probably not what you want to be doing with it.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
It's a pointless combo, but it's fun.
Exactly. It's not like we have some fun way to like then sacrifice them all and deal a bunch of damage or something. We don't have that.
Yeah, here's an interesting talking point. We put in Ulamog's Reclaimer, 4 and a blue for an Eldrazi Processor, 2/5, devoid. It has no color. When Ulamog's Reclaimer enters the battlefield, you may put a card an opponent owns from exile into that player's graveyard. If you do, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. This is an interesting thing. I've never built around the like processor mechanic by taking cards out of exile, but I would be like, there's always something in exile in Commander. Like it's so rare that nothing gets exiled. So I really feel like you could do this quite easily at the time you would want to. Obviously not in turns 1 through 3, but like we don't want to do it that early. And then I guess the discussion is that safe enough? Like, are the only things in exile the things we desperately want to be in exile because they can reanimate them somehow? I'm not sure. I think it's a good discussion point of like, so who out there plays with the processors? Like, would you play a one-off processor without intended support in a deck? I don't know.
I think you're safe to do it. I think this is a fine add to any deck that would want this effect. Like you said, things are going to get exiled to Commander. Will you be able to do this on turn 5, on turn 6? Maybe not. But how often do you want to cast your Mnemonic Wall on turn 5? Right? Like, not
0 times.
Really. You're holding on to that until one of your big awesome spells is in your graveyard. Now the downside obviously is that you may have to wait even a few turns past that, which is very possible and is a pretty real downside. You know, it's not, obviously this is not as good as Mnemonic Wall or Archaeomancer is the other big one. But I do think that in a deck like this, that wants to have this ability happen more than once, I think the Reclaimer is a fine card to add, and I think it's fully worth it.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah, there's that. That's our recursion kind of leans toward that instant and sorcery thing. I mean, this is a deck with a lot of blue in it, so you know we get that bonus. There's also a little sort of section that I wanted to point out. That's not like majorly important, but I just think it's good enough to point out, and like it didn't quite crack the 3 stars or whatever. And that's we do have like 1 or 2 little buffers. So Temmet does this, right? He gives something +1/+1 and makes it unblockable. Well, what about Phantom General for 3 and a white? It's a 2/3 that says creature tokens you control get +1/+1. Seems good. I mean, it's not a big effect, right? You know, we got a couple creature tokens out there. Phantom General comes down, makes them all 1 bigger. But what about when you start making copies of Phantom General?
Ooh.
Right? Phantom General itself is a token then, right?
Yeah.
And then any copies you make of that going forward are also tokens, and they also pump everything by +1/+1. So you can, I think Phantom General is something to consider when it's like, oh, which one am I going to spam? Like, which one of these guys am I going to spam? Maybe I'll just spam Phantom General, make every creature I make huge, and then obviously Temmet's ability to get one of them in guaranteed gets better, and also just in general, your board obviously gets a lot better too. So
Yep.
Phantom General, I think, is a worthy card in this deck.
And then a brand new card that Amonkhet gives us is Aven Wind Guide. 2 white blue for a creature, bird, warrior, 2/3 with flying and vigilance. And it says creature tokens you control have flying and vigilance. Awesome. There's no point in copying this because you can't get double flying and vigilance, but that's just a very nice ability. We love vigilance in Commander because of the multiplayer style. And flying, yeah, I'll take that evasion. We don't need Temmet to give everyone unblockable if they're already basically unblockable. Yeah. Against certain decks.
And it has the Embalm mechanic right on it as well for 4 white and a blue.
Oh, I even forgot to read that. Yeah, because it's good enough without it.
Yeah, it is. You know what would be interesting, and I kind of think it would have been a bit more flavorful. I mean, I don't know what the root of this card is. Like, I don't know what if anything, this plays in the story or anything. But wouldn't it have been cool if it was cheaper? So let's say it was like 1 white blue for a 2/3 flyer vigilance. Just for a 2/3. That said creature tokens you control have flying and vigilance. So then when you embalm it gets flying and vigilance.
Oh,
so you have to embalm it for it to be really good, right?
Yeah, so
that would have been cool.
It has its effect on itself only when it's embalmed and a token. Cool.
Yeah, wouldn't that have been cool? But anyways,
yo, Wizards R&D, if you need hiring, my boy Andy.
Yeah, man, I'm working for you out here. So yeah, that's the long and short of it. That's the deck.
Cool.
But we saved a couple here for the end, and that's the 3 stars. So let's get right to the 3 stars of this deck. The most effective cards in here doing the things we want to do. Sean, why don't you start with number 3?
Number 3 star of the deck is, let me find it here. Where is it in the notes? Soul Foundry.
No.
I'm up a category. That's why I can't find it. Number 3 star of the deck is Blade of Cells.
There you go.
There we go. Yes. 2 generic for an artifact equipment. We know this. Equipped creature has Myriad, and it equips for 4. So whenever that creature attacks, you get to make a token copy attacking each opponent. We only deal with really good tokens, right? So this is the thing, right? We're going to try to put it on an existing token creature that is awesome, that we want copies of. So Temmet makes the original attacker unblockable, and we don't care if those other ones are unblockable because we probably just want them for their ETB abilities anyway.
Exactly. Blade of Cells. This is one we haven't had a chance to brew with a lot because when this card came out, it was very expensive. We're talking $16 card for a while there. It has
come down to within our restrictive budget limits.
Yeah, exactly. It has dropped a lot, and I think that's because this card was very overrated when it came out. And you wouldn't have known that unless you played with it a bit, I think. It definitely is something... when I say overrated, I don't mean bad. Don't take it that, because this card is still very good. It's just that it has diminishing returns as the game goes on, and the better you do in a game, you start eliminating your opponents, you get less of a return to the point, and we said this before, when you get to 1v1, Blade of Cells does absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the magical Christmas land of this card and imagine okay, I'm going to make 4 copies of this and it's going to be crazy. And that is very true early, but yes, its diminishing returns are significant.
Yeah, but that being said, it is still worthy of the number 3 slot of the 3 stars.
What's the number 2 star?
Number 2 is Stolen Identity. 4 and 2 blue for a sorcery that says put a token onto the battlefield. That's a copy of target artifact or creature. And it has Cipher. So you can code it onto the creature, and then you can cast it when that creature deals combat damage to a player. Obviously, this works extremely well with Temmet's ability. Also, the thing I always love about Stolen Identity is that you cast it as a sorcery, you get that effect guaranteed. It's all upside from there. You pay 6, you get a copy of something, and then it's on a creature. Then now that creature has that ability. It's fantastic. Cipher is one of the best abilities in Commander, I think. It's just that
great.
We have so little of it. We don't have a lot of Cipher. There's only a handful of Cipher cards. But in the right decks, they're all awesome, and Stolen Identity is one of them.
You can kind of consider you get one for free also, because you're probably going to cast it on a turn where you know something's going to basically get in uncontested. Mm-hmm. And so if your opponents deal with the ciphered, if the encoded creature after that, you've still gotten your 2 copies. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good, exactly. And what's the number 1 star?
Oh, number 1 star, a gift from the new Amonkhet set, Anointed Procession. Not sure what that is yet? Oh, you will be familiar soon. 3 and a white for an enchantment. If an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many of those tokens instead. We finally get this other piece of doubling season.
Huge.
Yeah, right? Man, so now, like, this goes so well. Think of this with Fairy Artisans, right? The Fairy Artisans makes the one that's going to disappear, but the one that Anointed Procession makes, that one's not going to disappear.
Actually, I think it does disappear.
Oh, that's right, because
it's
this...
Yeah,
it says Fairy Artisans still created it. Okay, my mistake.
Yeah, exactly. Because Anointed Procession does not make it. That thing still makes it. And on Fairy Artisan specifically, it says exile all other tokens created with Fairy Artisan. But anyways,
right.
Yeah.
You know what? Still great. Still the number 1 star.
Still very good.
Right?
Still the number 1
all
star.
All those myriads.
Yeah.
Right. Anything you back from the brink, you get doubled. It's great.
Yeah, it's very, very good. If you get this card in this deck, you're laughing. Absolutely laughing. Didn't have any surprises or discoveries this round. There wasn't anything I wasn't like completely unfamiliar with. I guess some of these Amonkhet cards could be considered surprises, but and discoveries.
Sure.
But whatever. Let's move on. Quickly mention Wizard's Tower again here. That's our sponsor. They're great. You can go to mtgcanada.com specifically now and read articles that Sean and I are writing for them. That's their content site. Sean's got a great series going, as you guys probably know. And I just finished my article yesterday, and it's all about lightning rod creatures, meaning things that demand removal right away. Things that you barely ever get to see their ability because someone's going to use removal on it, and the benefits of having those creatures and which ones I've basically never seen do their thing. One of them is Fauna Shaman. I'll just tell you right off the bat.
Yeah.
Fauna Shaman, great card, but I don't think I've ever seen it used because the second anyone casts it, it just dies the next turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, go check it out.
You can do your pre-orders too of your Amonkhet before it's released, and they'll ship those out as soon as they're able to. I'll tell you what, I made an order and I included a few Amonkhet pre-orders in that order.
Did you? What did you pre-order?
Yes, I did. Most of the new legendary creatures. In fact, one of Temmet himself.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, good for you. I have not. I managed to. I was looking at it though, and I said, you know what? I'm going to wait and see.
Yeah, I thought about it, but I was just like, I just want them.
Yep. No, for sure. If you want them, go get them. Use the coupon code Tower Brews. Also, of course, you get 5% off your order of $15 or more singles, U.S. or Canada. Okay, let's get to the budget report.
This is where we take all of the cards. We copy their bank accounts, and the government shuts down one of them for fraud, but the one of them that's still around, we spend frivolously.
Yep. Wall Street, Amonkhet over here. Yeah, so this one, this is an interesting one. So our budget, we're right up close to the budget. We're right around $49 here. But that's largely because of our first... it was our third star in the number 1 on our budget report, and that is Blade of Selves. This one is still riding up around $5 or $6. Felt it was worth it in this deck. It may be worth it in a lot of decks for a lot of you, but in this one specifically, this was a good one. I think you could still cut it because we kind of have a lot of this kind of ability. You know what I mean? We have a lot of token making stuff. So I do think if you wanted to make this deck a bit cheaper, you could probably cut Blade of Selves. Even though it's a third star,
cuttable.
You know what I mean? It's a very good card, but it is kind of cuttable still.
Second star, second most expensive card is Mimic Vat. This is a Phyrexian card, 3 generic for an artifact, and it has imprint, which basically says whenever a non-token creature dies, you kind of put that card under the Mimic Vat. You exile it under the vat. And then while it's there, you can pay 3 and tap the Mimic Vat to put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of the exiled card. And if you want to put a new card under as it dies, it kind of kicks the old one back into the graveyard. So there's only ever one creature under the vat at any given moment. But these are token creatures. Temmet can do stuff with those creatures.
Yeah, and you get their ATB abilities, obviously. It's great.
Yeah, this one's almost $3.
Almost $3. Still, I think just an excellent card That's worth $275 in my mind.
Well worth it.
Another one of, and it is one of the best token makers in this deck too. Another one that's excellent, a great token maker is Soul Foundry, and it comes in at our number 3 most expensive card. It's 4 mana for an artifact with imprint, so similar to Mimic Vat, except that it says when Soul Foundry comes into play, you may remove a creature card from your hand. In your hand from the game. So you exile it. Basically, you exile it under Soul Foundry, a lot like Mimic Vat, and then you pay X and tap it. You put a creature token into play that's a copy of the imprinted creature card. X is the converted mana cost. So basically, you just get repeatable versions of this thing, and hopefully we can do some stuff with those token copies. Soul Foundry, very good. Around the same price as Mimic Vat, coming in just under $3.
And one of the weirdest arts on any artifact.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's like a bunch of so it's like this weird artifact pod thing, which I guess is the Soul Foundry.
And I think it's floating in a tornado.
Or it's going back in time or something.
Yeah.
It looks like it's going... What's that show with the kid and the dog? That travels through time.
Lassie.
No, it's a cartoon. Anyways, Professor Dog or whatever. Anyways, it looks like they're going back in time in that version. And,
I mean, it is run by a flux capacitor. There's clearly a flux capacitor
in the middle there, yeah. And like a bunch of flying like thralls, it looks like. What do you call that thing? Those things?
You know what they look like?
There?
They look. What are those microscopic creatures that can live in space for infinite years and you can't crush them? And
yeah, tardigrades.
Yeah. They look like little
water bears.
Yeah. They look like little those guys.
They look like flying idiots. That's what I think.
Yeah, they're making a dumb face for sure.
Look at this dumb face this guy's making.
I made a soul.
Soul Foundry made one of me. Well, don't make these guys if you have Soul Foundry. Make something better, I promise. It'll be good. Yeah. Anyways, that's the budget report. Bam, there it is. That's the whole show. Temmet.
Temmet is a riot.
Yeah, it's funny because like his ability is pretty small in this deck, even I would say. But you can really put some stuff in there that makes it well worth it, right? Like you can. I've always wanted to make this deck. Also, I just had to say this. Ever since, like they keep making blue token making things that copy creatures, and they've made enough now where it's like, okay, we can make a pretty sweet deck with this, and they gave us the commander for it, so it's great. I think the best version of this deck is Bant, though, right?
Yeah, for the Populate.
Yeah, for Populate, and even like maybe it's even maybe it's not Rune, but like it's something like that where you get like ETB becomes like a secondary thing you also want to do. I don't know. It's but this is perfect. Like honestly, it's almost more fun to make it only blue white and make it lean on these colors heavier.
Yeah. A listener, one of our listeners sent us an email a couple weeks back when Temmet was newly spoiled.
Oh, yeah.
Took no time putting a Temmet deck together. That's a listener, Jonathan Landreth. He sent us a deck list that we've tried not to look at too deeply yet.
Yeah.
We wanted to like kind of do because we knew we were doing one of the commanders and we did a take. But why don't we put the link up for his tapped out deck version of it? You can see what he did with it, and just see where we crossed paths and where we deviated. Yeah,
you can. Let's do that. We'll post that in the show notes on the podcast, as well as on our YouTube channel. You'll see it in the I don't know, what do you call those? The notes underneath. We'll show.
Yeah,
we'll post
the
that.
words.
The words that are under the video. You can see that there. So yeah, this was a lot of fun. This was a good one. Obviously, new sets out. We're all super stoked about it. The full spoiler's up now.
And so we'll be recording that set review soon. So we'll be dropping that very shortly.
Very shortly. So if you heard this in a little bit, go check back, check the YouTube channel, check your iTunes or whatever, and you'll probably see it up. Okay,
cool.
Well, that was fun. Stay tuned for a Commander interview. That's still happening, and then we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Commander's Brew Commander interview portion of the show. Sean actually couldn't be here right now. He's out adding bricks to his tiny pyramid, but he'll be back next time. But for now, I just wanted to welcome Temmet, Vizier of Naktamun, but the embalmed Temmet. Temmet, welcome.
Hello, Andy. It is great to be here.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, it's great to have you. Honestly, it's a real pleasure. Temmet, you are the first and only legendary creature to have the new Embalm mechanic. That's got to be exciting for you.
Oh, this is very exciting. Very exciting to have Embalm. Very exciting to be embalmed.
Is it? This is what I want to talk to you about a bit today. Is being embalmed? What's it like? You said it's exciting. What's exciting about being embalmed?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of the excitement is the fact that I know I get to go back to the command zone and get to be regular Temmet with muscles and hats again. But right now, I mean, you know, it's the same difference of like, you know, going to a haunted house at an amusement park versus going to a real haunted house.
So, wait, I have a few questions here. First
Okay.
of all, are you not allowed to wear hats when you're embalmed?
No, the real person keeps their clothes. I mean, sometimes you just put a couple of things on to let everybody know that you're that thing or person.
Right, okay.
But like, I have some badass hats, so I'm not going to give them to the embalmed version of me. I'm going to keep them at my house for when I come back from the command zone as regular Temmet.
Okay, but you right now are the embalmed version. So you keep
Yes.
saying me as in the other version, but you are currently embalmed. So don't you want those badass hats?
Yes, I do want those badass hats. Don't get me wrong. But the trouble with being embalmed is you don't really have full willpower. You know, I don't have I can't really decide everything I want to do.
Okay, I see. You're a little bit like indentured to the other version of it, or at least to do the things that person would do or something.
Right. Luckily, I'm a cool guy, so I'm cool with it. I'm gonna let myself do cool things. But you know, some of the embalmers out there don't have it so lucky.
Yeah, it seems like maybe you have a few extra privileges simply because on your token card here, you are just wearing the same clothes as Temmet and even the same hat. I gotta say, like, did we catch you in a moment where, you know, you said, "Hey, I'm wearing this hat no matter what," and then did you get in trouble for it or something?
Okay, I'm gonna peel back the curtain here a little bit. Those token pictures of all the embalmed things.
Yeah.
Those are staged photo shoots.
Oh, okay. So
yeah,
this is
the
not...
real embalmed things don't look that nice.
Oh,
There's an
really?
embalmed cat in the set. Do you
Yes.
honestly like the cat is ragged, but you know we used Photoshop and you know
Oh.
clever lighting.
Wow, that's a real eye opener for me. I guess I didn't think that sort of manipulation was going on. How does that make you feel as an embalmed, you know, version of a legendary creature?
That's just how the world is, you know. I mean, look at the art for regular Temmet. I mean, like, I remember when I was regular Temmet, I didn't drink water that day, so I got extra cut for the photo of
right.
it. Like, you know, when I'm regular Temmet, I got about an extra 10 pounds on me normal day to day.
Yeah, I will say you do look slightly different. I mean, in this version, it looks like you're just wearing a dirty old pillowcase on your head, as opposed to the tight wrapped bandages in the photo we're looking at here.
Yeah, this is real. This is real embalmed.
So tell us a bit more about going from being embalmed to not being embalmed. Specifically, you can only really do this in Commander. But like, what's the process there? Like, it seems like once you're embalmed, you're stuffed full of spices and herbs and like a bunch of formaldehyde and all this. Like, how does that work?
So right now, inside my wrappings, I have 11 herbs and spices.
Okay.
I can't tell you the recipe because it's magical and secret.
Okay, well...
But you know, as you know, when you get embalmed in the first time, they put your heart in a jar over here, and they put your brains in a jar over there, and your kidneys in a jar. So everything is in jars. And they just put those jars back in.
Oh, okay.
Wrap it up.
Okay.
Shake it up. Pay an extra 2 generic to come back 1 extra time, and there you have it.
And then you're just good. So
I'm just good.
What's it like being in the command zone? Are you fully formed there, or?
Yes. The command zone. It's sort of like a ghosty version of myself.
Oh, and is it like, I always picture the command zone as like a nice lounge. Am I right about that?
Yeah, the command zone's great. Unlimited Coke.
Wow.
Peanuts. Yeah, you can drink all you want. It's weird that like sometimes emblems hang out there, which is a weird thing.
Oh yeah, what are those things like?
Really weird.
Just like the disembodied head of a planeswalker floating there, like.
Yeah, so
weird.
I'm sitting in a lounge chair, chatting with the bartender, having a laugh, just enjoying my time, and then the floating head of Soren Markov is there, like coming out of the wall, who just makes people sacrifice things every turn. It's really harshes the vibe, I gotta say.
Oh wow. Well, you know what? I'm glad to hear that you have confirmed my suspicions that the command zone is basically an airport waiting lounge.
Oh, it's great. Free Wi-Fi.
Sounds awesome.
Cappuccino machine.
Oh, that's nice. Wow. Well, I'm glad. Wow, you've really shed some light on a lot of different things for us here. Embalmed version of Temmet. So thanks for being here. And is there anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Yeah, I'm just saying everyone out there is beautiful. Even don't let the ideals that the pictures on the cards put make you think you're not beautiful. Those are unrealistic standards to live up to.
Wow, that is that's really nice of you to say, Temmet.
Thank you.
For a person wrapped in dirty old bandages, stuffed with like wrappings or spices and things like that. Okay.
Yeah, this is the real me. #no makeup.
#no makeup. Okay, cool. Thanks, Temmet. We'll see everybody next time. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
If you want to contact us, I'm at Sean Tabaris.
And I'm at Andy Holbone.
Send us an email at commandersbrew@gmail.com.
You can find out when we go live on Twitch if you follow us at twitch.tv.
And if you care to support us on Patreon, check us out at patreon.com.
And you can find our deck list on tappedout.net.
And if we forgot anything, commandersbrew.com.